This is Michael Woudenberg from Tucson, Arizona, with the Mixed Mental Arts Knowledge Bomb, The Death of Experts. Long live the wisdom of crowds. Back in the 1950s, very few people got a voice to speak on important matters. There were a handful of TV stations with serious-sounding journalists like Walter Cronkite and Edward R. Murrow. Scientists in white lab coats were revered as trusted figures of authority, and important-sounding economists played with numbers while simultaneously the economy boomed. It was a magical time. And much of that magic rested on the idea that the people in charge, news anchors, scientists, economists, and senators, could be trusted. Of course, when a group of people has unchecked trust, they will abuse that power. Likewise, the trust of scientists often went unchecked, and so a tiny group of scientists was able to sow doubt about the dangers of smoking and other environmental hazards. However, the greatest danger to the public well-being comes not from a minority of experts abusing their power, it comes from the majority of experts being in consensus around a bad idea. Humans form cultures. As Jonathan Haidt states, cultures bind and blind. Experts are merely groups of humans who are atomistically focused on a tiny piece of the world. The more they focus on a specific topic, the more narrow-minded they become, and quickly, like the blind men and the elephant, their conclusions lose the context of the holistic and can get worse over time. This is exactly what happened with economics. Adam Smith, the founding father of capitalism, wrote 2 books, The Wealth of Nations and The Theory of Moral Sentiments. Adam Smith saw the elephant. Unfortunately, as the economist Russ Roberts points out in How Adam Smith Can Change Your Life, most economists don't read both of Smith's books. But it turns out that Adam Smith's other book has everything to do with economics. It's about how humans actually behave. The founding father of capitalism knew full well that there was a tension between humanity's selfish and altruistic selves. He never would have approved of the Gordon Gekko view of capitalism from the 1987 film Wall Street. Greed is not good. Adam Smith taught that self-interest is good. It is good for me to create a business that generates profit, but not if I destroy the world in the process. The essence of Smith's view of capitalism is captured in the story of the goose that laid the golden egg. You get the most golden eggs over the long term, not by killing the goose and ripping out all the golden eggs. You get the most golden eggs by taking care of the goose so it lays golden eggs over the long term. Gordon Gekko's greed is good doctrine gets you to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. Capitalism, as laid out by its founding father, is tending the goose so that it lays golden eggs indefinitely. Of course, why should you believe what a person like me has to say about economics? It's a good question. After all, there's a whole field of PhDs in economics that your culture has taught you to trust. And yet, there's a profound irony here. Adam Smith wasn't a PhD in economics. He was a lot more like you or I than our current experts. So think on this. Capitalism was founded by someone like you who wrote 2 books. I am like you and have read both those books. Most economists have PhDs, have not read both books. Who should you trust to speak about how to create an economy that produces prosperity? The more you look into what the experts have actually been up to all this time, the more you'll learn that the answer is in the X-Files. Humans want to believe. Maybe not in UFOs, but in our society's fairness, our own future chances for prosperity, and in the people we entrust with authority. However, all power must be checked, including intellectual power. Newscasters, scientists, economists, and elected officials must all be held accountable. Of course, individually, it's a daunting amount of information to check. There are 60 million scientific papers, 130 million books, 6,000 languages. It's a huge amount of information. And yet, if 7.5 billion people can't get through all that info, then you can be sure a handful of experts can't. Apparently, the experts in economics couldn't even manage to get through 2 books by their founder. And this is where the job-apocalypse gets interesting. Robots, artificial intelligence, and software are taking away routine work. Information is becoming more easily available, and those of us who read widely are finding we often know more than the people with the fancy pieces of paper that cost a lot of money. The world is realizing that those educations that cost $250,000 can be had for a few dollars in library fees. And actually, you don't even have to pay those late library fees. Mixed Mental Arts and many other websites are aiming to break these ideas down for no money in less time. Experts cost more to hire and are often less educated. Which would you choose? So how do you do this? Well, you have idea sex. You bring together ideas that have never existed before. And that is something that is actually way easier to do outside of a university, where there is no one to tell you what you can or can't study. There's no territory. There's only exploration. In practice, saying experts are specialized is another way of saying they're narrow-minded. When Katie O'Brien and Hunter Motz wrote the Straight A Conspiracy, they brought together 7 fields of neuroscience. Occasionally, they were challenged for how they're qualified to write such a book. The truth is, no one is. By the norms of the culture of weird science, that is science that comes from white, educated, industrial, rich, and democratic cultures, they would have had to have gotten 7 PhDs, had to have taken 49 years to be qualified to write the book they already wrote. It ended up being much easier to pull the research together, package the book they knew the kids needed, and let it speak for itself. Mixed Mental Arts is currently pulling together hundreds of more fields and will continue to keep pulling in more. As we drive the IQ revolution, the results of what we're doing will increasingly speak for themselves. This is true of the crowdsourced Innocentive company, which leverages any and everyone to solve problems for an organization. More often than not, the solutions to a problem don't come from the experts within that field, but people in widely separate fields of study. The atomistic viewpoint cannot compete with the holistic. Another good story is a friend of mine who is suffering from knee pain. The medical experts, from knee specialists to orthopedic surgeons, told her that it was just aging in sports and that eventually she'd need surgery. Instead, she tried a doctor trained in holistic medicine. The doctor told my friend to touch her toes. She could hardly bend past her waist. The doctor told her that her knees were fine, but her hamstrings were too tight. My friend started stretching her hamstrings, and the knee pain went away. This is a great example of the specialty-focused experts versus the doctor my friend was warned was a quack. Similarly, Wikipedia revealed that humanity's superpower, social intelligence, means the crowd is way smarter than individual experts. Wikipedia, based on crowdsourced content, is ridiculously larger than any of the encyclopedias from 20 years ago. In fact, 20 years ago, a person could read the entire encyclopedia. Today, there isn't a human who could read all of Wikipedia in one lifetime. Wikipedia is also more accurate than even the renowned Encyclopedia Britannica, which was authored by hand-selected experts. The mass of humanity who can add, edit, and refine content on Wikipedia, myself included, helps to demonstrate that the age of the experts is fading. It's high time we realized our own capabilities and collaborated together to grapple with complex ideas, wrangle disparate disciplines into a holistic view, and have idea sex.